Very good evening to all our viewers. This is News First, where the people come first. And welcome to tonight's edition of Primetime News, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudannaika. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
President travels to London. Several ministries temporarily assigned to state ministers during President's absence. Will more ministers be appointed in the midst of the economic crisis? Medicine shortage has created a medicine mafia, a revelation by the All Ceylon Medical Officers Association. Farmers in Ballymadder pray for fertilizer and seeds. Egg producers at risk of stepping out of the industry. International flights from the Colombo International Airport temporarily suspended.
And now the stories in detail. President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who left to the UK to attend the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, touched down in London today. Several ministries which were under the purview of President Ranil Wickremesinghe have been assigned to 5 acting ministers during the time the President is overseas. Pramita Bandara Thenakone has been appointed as Acting Minister of Defence, Ranjit Sembalapitiya as Acting Minister of Finance and Geeta Kumarasinghe as Acting Minister of Women and Children Affairs. Kanaka Herath has been appointed as the Acting Minister of Technology, while Dillu Mamanukama was appointed as the Acting Minister of Investment Promotion. Preparations are being made for the state funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, when the nation will say a final farewell to Britain's longest ever reigning monarch. The state funeral of Her Majesty the Queen will take place at Westminster Abbey on Monday, 19th September. Today is the 4th and final full day that the Queen's coffin will lie in state in Westminster Hall.
The Queen's 8 grandchildren have taken part in a vigil standing beside her coffin in Westminster Hall on Saturday. This is the first time in history a monarch's grandchildren performed what is traditionally known as the Vigil of the Princess. Thousands of people continue to join the queue to see the Queen's coffin that is lying in state in Westminster Hall. At 2000 BST, a 1-minute silence will be held across the UK. People are being encouraged to mark the silence privately in their own homes, on the street with neighbours, or at community events and vigils. Before the silence, a prayer service will be held at the Kelpies, 30-metre-high horsehead sculptures near Falkirk. 96 lanterns, one for each year of the Queen's life, will be floated on the water surrounding the statues. The state funeral of Her Majesty the Queen will take place at Westminster Abbey on Monday, the 19th of September at 1100 BST, which is 10 GMT and 3:30 PM Sri Lanka time. On the morning of the 19th, the lying in state will end and the coffin will be taken in procession from the Palace of Westminster to Westminster Abbey, where the state funeral service will take place. Following the state funeral, the coffin will travel in procession from Westminster Abbey from Wellington Arch. The coffin will travel to Windsor, And once there, the state hearse will travel in procession to St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, via the Long Walk. A committal service will then take place at St. George's Chapel. Late yesterday, US President Joe Biden and his wife, First Lady Jill Biden, arrived on board Air Force One at Stansted Airport. Biden is among 500 heads of state and foreign dignitaries coming to London for a gathering of world leaders not seen for decades.
Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena says that ministers who will be appointed in the future will be subjected to strict financial controls. He made these remarks during a visit to the historic Attamastana in Anuradhapura.
After visiting the Jayasree Mahabodhiya and the Ruwanvali Mahasaya, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena called on the chief incumbent, Venerable Pallegama Hemaratana Thera, and obtained his blessings. Afterwards, he visited the Mahasangha in Thuparamaya and the Sri Sambuddhi Jayanti Viharaya.
මේ විනාශයෙන් ප්‍රධාන දේ තමයි අධ්‍යාපනය නැති වීම ළමයි. අධ්‍යාපනය නැති වෙනවා කියන්නේ රටක ඉතින් රට පල්ලෙහාට යනවා. ඊළඟට ඉන්න මිනිස්සු ඔක්කොම රට යනවා. පාස්ලත් යනවා. විනය කඩාවැටීම තමයි. විනය සම්පූර්ණ විනය කඩාවැටීම.
The program prepared after the IMF held discussions with the President and the government is to be presented to the Board of Directors of the IMF within the next few weeks. Many countries are providing the support needed for Sri Lanka to navigate through these troubled times. The United States, Japan, India and many European countries are providing us with this support.
The Prime Minister also spoke about the appointment of state ministers.
As the Prime Minister, I say that none of the ministers, state ministers and myself will not take a single cent from the expenditure head. Strict financial controls will be in place, and it is under those circumstances that the ministers and state ministers were appointed, and it is under the same financial controls that future ministers and state ministers will be appointed.
A group of farmers in Valimada took part in a religious ritual today requesting fertilizer, pesticides and seeds required for their cultivations.
ගොවි ජනතාව විඳින දුක් වේදනාවල් උන්ටත් දැනේවා ඒ දැනීමෙන් ඔවුන්ගේ සිත් සතන් අවදි වී ඔවුන්ගේ හදවත් උණු වී ගොවි ජනතාවට යහපතක්ම සලසා දීමට ඔවුන්ගේ net සිත් යොමු වේවා ඉස්සර.
It was said those days that Sri Lanka is the best country in the world. Today Sri Lanka is in a crisis. Our country was called the granary of the East and even exported rice. But today we are begging for food. I think our country is ranked number 6 in malnutrition. We cultivate potatoes during September and October. Today, 50 kilograms of potato seeds cost 34,000 rupees. The sack of fertilizer cost 40,000 rupees. Agrochemicals are priced between 7,000 to 8,000. Can an average person grow potato?
Representatives of farmers' organizations of the Mahavali B zone convened a media briefing and demanded for a program to be implemented to purchase their paddy.
The government does not have a proper program to purchase paddy. It is silent. But the Agriculture Minister is saying that farmers who will engage in organic fertilizer for the next Maha season will be given 20,000 rupees per acre. What kind of a joke is this? While saying that there is no money to purchase paddy from the farmers, they are planning to provide a relief package of 20,000 rupees for the coming Maha season. If the agriculture sector is not supported by providing chemical fertilizer, everyone in the country will have to die in hunger. How can the farmers farmers start their work for the next season when a decision regarding the paddy price has not been reached. First, prepare a program to give a proper price for paddy. As of now, paddy is not being purchased by the government anywhere in the B zone. The paddy in government storages have gone bad by now. Old stocks are the ones remaining. Therefore, start purchasing paddy.
The Ruhunarata Farmers Organisation Collective also convened a media briefing today.
Previously, they told us to cultivate paddy during the yellow season without any fear, as the government will purchase paddy at the price fixed by the government and that it will not bow down before the mafia. The minister bragged about this in front of the media. The minister is now saying that the large-scale mill owners and officials at state banks are conspiring, and because of that, paddy cannot be purchased. Do we need a minister if he is only going to make such announcements? Farmers of Galan began harvesting crops such as beans and onions, which were cultivated during the Yala season. Members of the National Farmers Union took part in a field visit at several fields in the Galan area to supervise the harvests.
$60%
to 70% of crops have been damaged. Who is responsible for this? Farmers are asked to cultivate, but not a single official visit these fields. Officials get paid for doing nothing. The farmer has faced a very tragic situation. A proper mechanism for the purchase of paddy has not been set up, even though cabinet approval has been granted to allocate money for this. Against a backdrop where approval has been granted to allocate 2 billion rupees for the purchase of paddy, when will a program for the purchase of paddy be implemented? According to the Minister of Agriculture, this program is being sabotaged by a certain group. Isn't the responsibility of the minister and the government to take action against them? What are we going to do at the start of the next season? First, we will have to provide the fuel to the farmers, even if we have to stop giving fuel to other vehicles. We must provide the fuel to the farmers as a matter of priority. We are already prepared for this. Majority of the egg producers have abandoned their industries due to the increase in the price of chicken feed and the current control price. Due to the price hikes of poultry feed and other inputs, many egg producers are suffering today. Manufacturers point out that they can no longer sell their products at the control price set by the government.
We had to reduce to 40% the animals in our farm. We had to sell off these animals because we were not able to feed them.
According to our correspondent, many egg producers in the Mavatagama, Hettipala, Variapola, Kuliyapitiya in the Kurunagala district have withdrawn from the industry.
Christmas season is coming ahead and we will not have enough eggs to sell.
They request a viable solution to these issues. They spoke to us when they published this gazette, but when the retail price was set to 43 to 45 rupees, we opposed it. We said that this was wrong and asked them to stop doing this, and said that if you do this, more producers will leave the market. They have arbitrarily taken decisions and published this gazette. It is a result of this that we are now experiencing a collapse.
On to another one of our headline-making stories. Medicine shortage being experienced in the country continues to severely affect many people. The All Ceylon Medical Officers Association made the following revelation about a mafia that has raised its head in the midst of the medicine crisis.
The shortage of drugs in public service centres, in public hospitals, is at a very serious stage, and this has been continuing for a considerable period of time. Similarly, there's a shortage of medicines in the local market as well. The situation when it comes to surgeries at rural hospitals and district hospitals is very critical. Some hospitals don't have any medicine for in-house patients. The same goes for antibiotics, surgical instruments and anesthetics. There's a severe shortage of these. The entire health service has gradually collapsed and we have now reached a very critical position. The government doesn't care about this at all. Drugs which can be purchased for 475 rupees by the State Pharmaceutical Corporation and sold for 495 rupees is being sold for about 2,750 rupees. That's about 5 to 6 times more. When the State Pharmaceutical Corporation has the capacity, they have disrupted the supply of those medicines. Therefore, based on the wishes of pharmaceutical companies, the government and the Health Ministry have permitted these expensive medicines. If we avoid the drug mafia and disallow the importation of expensive drugs, you can save a substantial amount of money.
News First with the people.
Well, time for a short commercial break. More local, international and sports stories will come your way on the other side. Stay with News First. We will be right back.
News First. Main sponsor.
Anka eke arakshita iti gini petti. Surya gini petti.
මොකද මහත්තයා මේ
නෑ මේ ගෙදර සිංක් එකේ
අයි මහත්තයා ස්ලෝන් නෙමෙයිද දැම්මේ
හදිස්සියට බාලා පයිප්පයක් දැම්මේ නැද්ද මුදලාලි ඊයේ පෙරේදා කඩේ රිපෙයාර් කරන්න ගෙනාපු ගම් චුට්ටක්
මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න වලට හොඳම විසඳුම ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටක් හැබැයි ඉක්මනින් දාගන්න ස්ලෝන් පයිප්පයක්
ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටා හැම ගෙදරකම සිටිය යුතු ජනනල කාර්මිකයා දැන් රඟම ග්‍රොසරියෙන් මිලදී ගන්න.
Welcome back. You're with News First. Sri Lanka's Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it has requested the Ukrainian government to ascertain the veracity of the reports regarding 7 Sri Lankan medical students who were discovered in the recaptured region of Kharkiv, Ukraine.
The Foreign Ministry said they have requested for more information on the students as a matter of priority, given the need to ensure the welfare of Sri Lankan nationals in Ukraine, and assures that it is in contact with Ukrainian government through the embassy in Ankara. A briefing by the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Saturday revealed that 7 Sri Lankan students who were attending Kupiansk Medical College were discovered in a basement in the recaptured area. According to Ukrainian President Zelensky, the students were being held in the area since last March and were being directed for medical attention. The head of the Russia-controlled territories of the Kharkov region said on Saturday that Ukrainian forces detained 7 Sri Lankan students from the Kupiansk Medical College who could be used to create forgeries and stage provocations against Russia. We learned that 7 Sri Lankan citizens who were students at the Kupiansk Medical College were detained by the Ukrainian forces. They were taken to an unknown location. Considering the well-known methods of the Ukrainian special services, we do not rule out a provocation against the civil military administration of the Kharkov region and the Russian Federation. The detained foreigners are quite likely to be used in the fabrication of fake testimonies similar to those of Bucha and Izium.
Сейчас только сожаление о тех людях, которые не смогли покинуть эту территорию.
The European Union presidency has called for an international tribunal over Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The call from the Czech Republic, which currently holds the rotating presidency of the bloc, came after the discovery of hundreds of graves in Izium, a town recently liberated by Ukrainian troops. Many are said to be civilians, women and children among them.
Operations at the Colombo International Airport in Ratmalana has been temporarily suspended. The airport was declared an international airport in March this year.
The Colombo International Airport in Ratmalana was declared open in 1938. In 1968, operations were shifted to the Bandaranaike International Airport in Katunayaka. After that, the airport functioned as an internal airline centre. After spending 220 million rupees on March 27, 2022, the Ratmalana Airport was declared as an international airport under the auspices of the then Sports Minister Namal Rajapaksa. A sub-runway and a covered hangar for aircraft was declared open at the event. On the same day, a Malaysian national airliner reached the airport. Also, the authorities said 3 flights belonging to the Maldivian Airlines will operate in the Colombo International Airport per week. However, when News First inquired from the general manager of the airport, Arun Rajapaksa, he said, as of now, the airline has stopped flying to the airport. He also said the situation is temporary. It's not bad for a country to have more than one international airport. However, it all depends on whether or not the airport brings any benefits to the country. Despite having 3 international airports in Katnayaka, Mattala and Palali, the Colombo International Airport was declared open as the 4th international airport during the first quarter of 2022. At the time when the decision to spend 220 million rupees for a 4th international airport was made, Sri Lanka was on the verge of an economic collapse. Today, the country is bankrupt. With the country facing bankruptcy, it is clear the project to develop Sri Lanka's 4th international airport was nothing more than a white elephant.
The Samagi Joint Trade Union movement says fuel prices must be amended according to a price formula.
As of now, a high profit of more than 160 rupees is being earned through a litre of fuel, including petrol and diesel. The profit earned from 95 and super diesel is more than 200 rupees. As of today, IOC is selling fuel at the same corrupt, wasteful price of the CPC. While the CPC earns a profit of 160, IOC earns over 200 rupees. The CPC is purchasing a barrel of crude oil for a price above the market price. They are purchasing from a third party. The insurance payment and the shipping cost per barrel is $24. The maximum amount the IOC has paid is $7. They are purchasing for a price that is $10 to $15 less. The government is burdening the people by an additional 100 rupees for every litre of fuel. They are earning a profit of more than 160 rupees from petrol and diesel alone.
Lanka IOC says they will be opening 20 more fuel stations in Sri Lanka this year and a total of 94 in the next 3 years. The statement was made at an event held today to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Lanka IOC.
The event was attended by directors of Lanka IOC, Vigyan Kumar and Ruchi Ragarwal, and was held at the SS Kotalavala IOC filling station in Narayanpeta.
Having known about the various problems faced by this country, so we are happy that we have been able to contribute something to solve the problems of Lanka through Lanka IOC. I think with support of Government of India and our management, we have arranged fuel and kept the country running, and I am very happy that we have been a part of keeping Lanka operational, and I'm sure coming days will be good, and I hope and pray that all of you come out of all trouble and let there be happiness, peace and prosperity all across Sri Lanka.
Responding to a question raised by a journalist, the Lanka IOC director said they have ambitious plans for Sri Lanka.
Yes, I think we have plans to add 20 more stations this year, and finally we have ambitious plans here, and we are working with Government of Sri Lanka on how to expand. However, as per the interest invited by Government of Sri Lanka, there are other private players also coming in. So definitely we will increase our footprints. We have recently released one advertisement also, 94 locations. So we would like to complete that within next 3 years.
Has the Indian Oil Company been granted permission to open 94 fuel stations? We questioned the Secretary of the Ministry of Power and Energy regarding this matter. He said that IOC has only been given permission to open 50 fuel stations in Sri Lanka.
The government today refuted claims that poisonous rice had been imported to Sri Lanka, calling the media reports on the matter misleading and untrue.
Media reports circulated recently claimed that 596,440 metric tons of rice brought to Sri Lanka were contaminated and contained 43% lead, 47% selenium, 26% cadmium and 20% mercury. However, issuing a statement last night, the President's media division refuted these reports. The Register of Pesticides has not conducted any examination since this January. No reports on this matter have been published either. Findings of a certain examination were mentioned in the report, but those were findings included in a 2017 report. The report states that the rice included 43% lead, 47% selenium and 20% mercury. We have not conducted any examinations on the rice that is in the market right now. Therefore, we cannot comment on that. Secretary to the Ministry of Trade, Commerce and Food Security, Sisira Kodikara, said that a complaint will be filed at the CID over these reports that have quoted wrong sources and misled the public. However, the Minister of Agriculture, who made controversial statements regarding imported rice, said that locally produced rice is more suitable for consumption than imported rice. He made this statement speaking at an event in Hambantota. He went on to state that fertilizer and agrochemicals used in Sri Lanka are of a better quality than those used in other countries. The All Ceylon Medical Officers Association also spoke about this matter at a media briefing today. Sri Lanka is a country that has very low quality food. No one in the country is providing any certification regarding the quality of the food that the people of this country consume. Who is going to be held responsible for the quality of rice that is imported to the country? Convening a media briefing, the United Rice Producers Association said that spreading false rumours like this among the public was the result of a conspiracy. It is impossible for the percentages mentioned to be included in imported rice. We feel there is a conspiracy behind the spreading of such reports in the country. The Government Information Department, issuing a statement, said that reports circulating regarding poisonous rice being imported to the country are completely false.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa spoke about the conduct of the government when the country is facing a serious economic crisis.
මන්ද පෝෂණ දර්ශක වලින් ලෝකයේ 6 වෙනි තැනට අපි ඇරි. දකුණු ආසියාවේ 2 වෙනි තැනට අපි ඇරි. ආණ්ඩුව කියනවා මේ රටේ මන්ද පෝෂණ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ.
The government says there is no malnutrition in this country. When the mothers and children of this country are unable to meet their basic needs without food or water, the government is enjoying luxuries. Ministers are appointed without any limit. School children are not given food. Pregnant mothers are not given nutritional packs, but they can appoint ministers and give them various benefits and privileges. There has only been a change of heads. The agenda is the same. What is the agenda? The agenda is protecting the Rajapakshas. Is this the difference?
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa made these comments while addressing the Samagi Jana Balavega Balamandala meeting in Attanagalla Gampaha.
A group of activists gathered outside the TID office in Killapana. Details coming your way on the other side of this short commercial break. Stay with News First.
ලොවටම එළිය දෙන්න දිලෙන සූර්යා අමතක වෙන්නෙම නැති නමගේ සූර්යා කොහොතින් දැල්වෙන ගිනි කුර සූර්යා කවදත් නමගත් ගිනි පෙට්ටි සූර්යා කවදත් නමගත් ගිනි පෙට්ටි සූර්යා කවදත් කොතනත් සමගේ විශ්වාසය දිනාගත් අංක 1 ආරක්ෂිත ඉටි ගිනි පෙට්ටි සූර්යා ගිනි පෙට්ටි.
Welcome back to the news. A group of activists gathered outside the TID office in Killapana this evening to celebrate the 29th birthday of IUSF convener Vasantha Mudalige. Mudalige was arrested on the 18th of August following a protest in Colombo.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vasantha. Happy birthday to you. This is for Vasantha, and that will be released soon. Yeah.
Today it's Vasantha Mudalige's birthday, so we have come here to cut a cake for him and to demand from the state to release him. He has been detained for 32 days in a dark cell in isolation, which is considered as torture under international standards. So basically the 3 boys who have been arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act have been tortured by the state for the last 32 days. So we call the government to repeal the PTA, we call the government to not pass National Security Act or any other counter-terror law, and we also demand from the government to release Vasanta, Hashan and Siridam Mahimi.
Today is day 14 of the 4th edition of the Divya Savya program supported by LOLC Holdings, seeking to support the most impoverished communities in Sri Lanka.
Today's Divya Savya program was carried out centering the Ratnapura district. The aim of the Divya Savya program is to support low-income earners to get nutritious meals on a daily basis. Under the Divya Savya program, essential goods are being distributed to low-income families facing serious financial difficulties across Sri Lanka.
On to sports news now. The Tilakaraja Memorial Leadership Karate Training Workshop was held today in Bhagavantalawa, Hatton.
The training workshop was organized by the Central Province branch of the Shotokan Karate Academy International. More than 100 students participated in this karate workshop led by Shihan Anto Dinesh. During the workshop, attention was focused on discipline and skill development of the students along with the techniques of karate. The basic techniques of the Japanese Shotokan karate art, kata sessions and the importance of kumite techniques were elaborated. Participation certificates were given to the students who took part in the workshop.
Canelo Alvarez defeated Gennady Golovkin via unanimous decision and retained his position as undisputed super middleweight champion.
Trunks here are good. I'm going to let you both work the top of the belt line unless you both touch up.
The trilogy was the closest of their fights, but it ended in another victorious night for the Mexican. In its whole, it was the least splendid of the 3 encounters, but it was brought to a thrilling climax by Gennady Golovkin's late rally, which brought him within touching distance of what he would have been seen as justice. After the fight, Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin met in the middle of the ring, ending their feud.
When it's all said and done between champions like these two.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. For the News First team, I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. Good night.